Andy, we're going to talk a lot of NFL today, or like our normal NFL
Yeah,
segment.
yeah,
We haven't talked college football at all this
it's
year at
true.
all.
It's true.
It's been like this last weekend was freaking bats. It was crazy. I don't expect you to have all the up to date thing, but Andy, they went to a 12-team playoff this year,
Yeah, big deal,
and
big
it
deal.
and everyone was like, "Oh, it's going to be pretty clear how they all set up." And but the problem is like these conferences are now like super conferences. They're like 18 teams in
Yeah,
them. The scheduling is really wonky with all the transfer portal and stuff and the NIL stuff. People are moving teams like crazy. You have a couple like really dominant teams at the top, but then from like 4 to 18, it's like it's really it's in there, and we're gonna have a three-loss team make the playoff.
yeah,
In college football, that's like unheard of. Like a three-loss team is like relegated to sub-tier status. But I think in this new era of college football, you just got to make the playoffs, and then anything can happen at that point. But like Alabama lost this weekend, Ole
yeah.
Miss lost this weekend. A lot of these really, I mean, in like the Big 12, which is guaranteed an automatic bid to the playoff, a top four seed, their teams are just killing each other, and I don't even know who's in the Big 12 because all the realignment. It's been fun, I will have to say, with college football.
I mean,
So,
one, Dave, it's your job to bring us all sports besides the NFL because, as you know, I'm a one sport guy, really. So we rely on you to keep us up in the know on all things non-NFL. But it has I've been like passively watching just the goings on. I don't watch the games, but I just kind of like see what's happening. Like, I mean, Indiana got their loss, right, which was I think not
mhm.
really a surprise because their record was a surprise, but kind of a surprise, And then now on the outside of that 12-team bubble. I think college sports would love to see Colorado make the playoffs just because of the name and Dion and everything else, but maybe they don't. And so it's definitely interesting. But I think the playoffs is great because back in the day, I mean, you had to go undefeated to win the national championship, which was
That's it. That was it.
yes, it's just such a high bar. But now, like you said, you can drop a game and you can stumble, which is I think reasonable, and then get in the playoffs and the way it's supposed to be, like the best team will come out of the playoffs the national champion. And that's awesome for college football to the 12-team playoff. Yes, somebody's going to be disgruntled because they were 13 or 14 and left out, but look, the best team's going to win, and it's super exciting.
Yeah, you still are going to have those 13, like the argument about whether who's the like 11th and 12th
Yeah,
seed,
yeah,
but that's the fun part of it. You need to keep that piece of it.
yeah,
But that's that. But like for example, for me, for Penn State, this was a classic Penn State week. They're 9-1. They're playing Minnesota, who just came off a really bad loss to Rutgers. But if anybody is a true Penn State fan, they knew that this was a game that Penn State almost always loses. And Minnesota has beaten Penn State in when they were a top five team more times than I think anybody else. I mean, I'm speaking very, yeah, raw, like hyperbole,
yeah,
but yeah, Minnesota always plays Penn State tough. And here we were. Penn State is barely hanging on for this game. But guess what? They won.
yeah.
Now they're 10-1. They've almost guaranteed themselves a spot in the playoffs. And anything can happen at this point. Now, I don't think they're going to win the national championship, but still, you're in the playoff, and that's what matters. That's what's going to get these schools. And the first round of the playoff is at the instead of being in neutral sites,
Yeah.
it's going to be on campus, which is going to be crazier. I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think so too, Dave. It's going to be really fun, and for whether Penn State's going to have a real shot to win the championship or not, for the fans, both students and alumni, and just other fans with some of these national brands, like they're going to get to see their team in the playoffs. It's going to be super exciting. It's going to be something we haven't seen in college football. So I think it's going to be
Yeah.
awesome. Dave, look, say, speaking of Penn State, not only is the school doing well, but Penn State graduate Saquon Barkley.
Oh my
It's
God.
he's doing
So
some damage on the football field, Dave.
yeah, let's transition to football because Andy, like what a 270 plus yard runs.
He's
He
killing
had
it.
250 yards rush. I think he's one of I think the stat was he had 25 rushes over 9 yards a carry. or it's over 25 yards, 25 carries, over 9 yards a carry. He's one of like I think only eight other players in NFL history to have at least 25 carries and average over 9 yards.
Yeah,
It was like how stupid. Like he's so good,
he is. I
and like
mean,
he was good on the Giants, but like you've been saying for weeks now, now he's got a line, and look what he's doing.
a line and other threats because unlike now look, Saquon's playing great football. He's going to be a talent behind that Eagles team for a long time. I think he's not Barry Sanders, right? But unlike Barry Sanders, who like he was the threat for a long time. Like, all you do is shut down the running game, and you could beat the Lions. Like you can't do that with Philly, and that's part of why he's doing so well. Because like you want to just focus on the run and try and shut down Saquon. Good luck, because AJ Brown will eat your entire defense if you do that. So the Eagles are coming together in a good way right now. They're starting to play good football consistently. Their playmakers are healthy and playing well. Jalen Hurts is being smart out there. I mean, they're in position to be really good down the stretch here. I really think it comes down to Philly and Detroit in the championship. And as good as Detroit's playing, Detroit's banged up, and those injuries could add up. That could be a really good game. That could be a really good game. Philly is playing great football, and Saquon is really the difference maker for the Eagles this year. I mean, I don't. It's gonna be tough to stop him.
I think the hard part, I agree. I think that's where it's leaning. I think the rest of the NFC is pretty mediocre. I mean, Green Bay's good, and you never know. They could get really hot. They just seem to be struggling with it. They keep winning. That's fine. I don't trust any of the other teams in the NFC
Yeah,
other than Detroit. And I think Detroit just brings a physicality that is going to be really tough for the Eagles. Not that, Barkley may not get his runs, but I don't think Hurts is going to have the same level of impact. And if you can shut down Saquon, I just the way that the Lions play defense, I think it's just pretty clear to me that they're going to win they're going to win the NFC. But let's not jump ahead of ourselves or
yeah,
whatnot.
yeah. There's a
But
long way to go. No, the Lions injuries are a concern. I mean, they're missing maybe their top two defensive players, arguably. Definitely Nathan Hutchinson, Alex Angeloni, team captain, and just a key part of the defense out for a long stretch here. They had some other bangings yesterday with Carlton Davis. I mean, those things add up. We've seen great football teams who can't get it done in the home stretch because they're injured. So the Lions just be careful here. But it's fun. It was a fun weekend of NFL football. And besides the Eagles' dominance last night against the Rams, there's some other good games too.
did you see the Cowboys game?
If I did see the highlights of the Cowboys game, I was traveling yesterday, so I was watching on and off as I was able to. I mean, they beat a good football team, and they won.
Are the Commanders good? I mean, that's like, did they just benefit from all like the Cowboys are not good. I
Yeah,
think we've made that very
that's
clear.
established. That's
That's
established.
established. The Cowboys are not good, but like that loss is going to come back. I mean, that's a tough loss for the Commanders.
Yeah,
I mean, at home against your hated rivals who are down, like you should have blown them out of the water. The Cowboys just kept hanging around, and then they almost blew it, Andy.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
like I just like the Cowboys in classic Cowboys fashion. There's only like 30 seconds left in the game. They have to go 86 yards for the game tying touchdown. And they take a little 14-yard pass and run it 86
yeah,
yards, Andy.
yeah,
Unbelievable. If that were that was the end of the story. But the guy missed the extra point, Andy.
yeah.
That it's just
Yeah,
like
it was
how
rough. It was rough.
crazy.
But I think it brings the Commanders back down to reality, right? I mean, everybody
Yeah.
wants to put them in the top five, and hey, they could win the East, and they're not. Philly's the better team. Philly wins the East. The Commanders are maybe a playoff team, but they're going to be that just making it to the playoff if they make it. I mean, they're not a great team, but look, this is the fun of NFL division rivalry. Like the Cowboys beating Washington at home, like no matter how good or bad one of those teams is, like that upset's always possible. Same thing, Dave, this Thanksgiving game with the Bears coming into Detroit. Like Detroit should
Yeah.
just dismantle them. But you know what? Division rivalry on Thanksgiving, the Bears winning wouldn't be like out of line just because that's division rivalries, man. It can go any
Yeah.
way, any day. I love it.
They had a really
The wild
fascinating
game.
the game, like wild game. They recover the onside kick, 22 seconds left. Caleb Williams throws a great pass down the middle.
Yeah.
And they kick a game tying field goal, go into overtime. Unfortunately, they couldn't pull it out in overtime, but Caleb Williams has looked a little bit better. Bryce Young for Carolina, they take the
Yep.
Chiefs to the last minute. I didn't expect the Chiefs. I knew with like 2 minutes left and the Chiefs getting the ball back, they were going to win that game. But for Carolina, you actually have to kind of feel like, hey, we're getting the makings of something here. They had won 2 games in a row against lesser opponents, granted, but Bryce Young is looking better. Who knows? We'll see how these things go, but very exciting football. And now we've got Thanksgiving for football to look forward to
Yeah.
as well. But we have one more game tonight: Baltimore versus the Chargers, Harbaugh versus Harbaugh. It's going to be an exciting game to see who comes out here. I think the Ravens are going to pull this one out, but if they don't, a lot of concerns are going to come up for the Ravens then, Andy.
Yeah, I think it's a good benchmark game for both teams because the Ravens should, like, if the Ravens are a legitimate team, it's really hard to figure out if they are. Like, they need to come out and just win this football game because they're the team that should be better and should win. And for the Chargers, like, I mean, I was putting them in my top five, Dave. 'Cause they're just coming up and playing with like a belief in themselves. And that's the thing, one of the things that Harbaugh brings, that he's just unbelievably confident, and it oozes out into the teams that he coaches, including Michigan and now the Chargers. They could win this game. And if they do, I think people have to really look at them as, hey, maybe this is actually a contender because they should have been for a long time and they just couldn't get it done. I think Harbaugh corrects a lot of the issues that have, hurt that team with injuries and just focus. So yeah, brother versus brother in coaching is something really interesting. We saw it in the Super Bowl, when they faced off a few
Yep.
years ago, and a chance to see it, tonight should be really fun. So it's an important game for both teams.
I was at that Super Bowl game, Andy. I was
That's
to,
right.
to go to that game. So,
Yeah.
okay, Andy, just one real quick point to wrap up the NFL discussion. Andy, a running back, their yards per carry, if you're doing 4.0 or above, that's a good season, right? I think
Yeah,
that's good.
fantastic.
Yeah. So Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry are both averaging over 6 yards a carry. That's
Yeah,
freaking unbelievable. I mean,
yeah.
that's just amazing. And we talked about this the last couple weeks. Maybe the running back is not dead. I mean, look what you're doing on your team. You got the two-headed monster. Jameer Gibbs is approaching 1,000 yards, and then you got Montgomery. The running back, like when now
10
that
touchdowns
quarterbacks.
apiece, Dave. Never been done in the NFL, years in a row, the way that Monty and Gibbs have done it. 10 touchdowns apiece. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's quite good on your side there, Andy. So they have an outside chance of being 2,000 yard rushers. It's a really stretch because I think Montgomery's got like 600 and something. But anyways, okay, Andy, let's switch off topics here. Let's go to our next. Andy, we've talked a lot about social media
Yeah,
and how things have gone over the last several years. You've been off Twitter for large. I mean, you still have an account there, but for
yeah.
large speaking, you're off Twitter. I am now like moved off Twitter. I have an account, but it's not my go-to anymore.
Yeah.
Um, you went to Threads pretty aggressively, and I think you built a good Threads community there. I struggled with it,
Yeah.
but then found Bluesky, Andy. This is all the rage now, Bluesky. A lot of people moving from Twitter to Bluesky. I, I've been really enjoying my experience
Yeah.
on Bluesky. It feels like early Twitter. A lot of people have migrated over. It's still hard to find all the people, right? People haven't
Yeah.
quite moved over. Some people are really concerned about they have a great follower group on Twitter and then they move to Blue Sky. They have to rebuild that. I'm less concerned about that. I just love being on something that yesterday aside, a posting I made yesterday aside,
You're always gonna get that.
largely speaking, I've enjoyed being on Blue Sky. I'm all in there, Andy.
Yeah, so hey, I'll bridge these two segments a little bit, Dave. I'll say thanks to Ian Rappaport, the NFL insider, for the follow on Blue Sky. We've gone back and forth a bit on Threads before. I love Rapp. He keeps us in the know, and he jumped up. He's now active on Blue Sky starting yesterday, and he's awesome. So that's fun to see. It's always fun to connect with people that don't know but like, and build that relationship online. But David, it is for, I think, for you and I and for many others, I think Blue Sky is just better. And so I did move to Threads like immediately when it came back. I have value in the socials. They're useful for work. They're useful for fun. And I wanted to be off of Twitter as soon as I had the opportunity. And so I did go to Threads. I was on Blue Sky, but there was nothing happening. It was a really small community at first. A lot of my work colleagues were off on Mastodon. I couldn't get into it. But the challenge with Threads was one, the algorithm is frustrating because if you say anything, you get locked into that very quickly, which isn't necessarily what you want. But two, for the purpose I primarily use it for, which is work purposes and political content, neither of those could be active on Threads, and it's
Yeah.
really difficult. And so I could talk Detroit Lions football, and I love the Detroit Lions community there, and I could talk about fitness and random things, but the main purposes for social media use for me just couldn't be satisfied on Threads, and so it left me very much wanting. Blue Sky creates that, and it's very well designed. There's a couple things they're still missing. I think there's a few things that they can do to make it a little better. And I think those things are coming with features wise. Like it's got a lot of great features from starter packs to the way it does the sort of trending content, the way you can have different feeds you can look into, the lists capability. I mean, it's really, really good. And there's active political discussion. There's for me, there's security news. So it's very relevant. It's a fun app. It's a good app. So I've pivoted the last 2 weeks to really primarily using Blue Sky. I use a tool to share on both somewhat, but my time on Threads is definitely decreasing because Blue Sky is really giving me more of what I actually need, and I can still share stupid, silly stuff, as I do.
Yeah, I'll go to your point. I use Twitter almost exclusively for like the news. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would post something stupid here and there or whatever, or comment or whatever. But I used it for my news feed. It was a quick. I mean, there are better. Yes, people, I get it. There's RSS feeds you should be looking at. Yeah, I get it. I get
but
it.
it's different. I mean, it's
But
different.
it's different. Like
Yeah,
I would get it for a quick rundown of what's going on, and maybe
yeah,
there's a story that popped out,
yeah,
and I would Blue Sky gives that back to me.
yeah,
And again, now that more people are over there, still not everybody. Like there's still a lot of like Penn State football has an account, but they
yeah.
don't have like any posts or whatever. So people need to get over there a little bit more. But I'm definitely enjoying the content a lot better over there. Yesterday though, Andy, I was gonna say like people are generally nicer, but like you shared something yesterday. It was kind of fun, like a political comment about the Matt Gaetz confirmation, basically that the Speaker of the House Johnson's had said, Matt Gaetz is a public person. We shouldn't be releasing these to the public information about it. But then when it came up about Hunter Biden, he used the exact same argument
Yeah.
in the opposite. So you
Yeah.
shared that
Shock,
funny
shock.
quip.
Yeah,
And I think you said for fuck's sake or something, or
yeah,
something on it. And I replied just simply like, yeah, it's amazing how they're both speaking out of both sides of their mouth. And look, it happens on both sides.
yeah.
Then some dude from Michigan, like who only talks about his, who only loves talking about his cats, gets on there and told me to go fuck off or so effectively. Because like he's like one side are Nazis who want to take away all your human dignity and rights, and the other side fights for you. Go take your other side's bullshit and fuck off or something. Like, but I can't remember exactly what he said, but I thought that was quite. I was like, whoa, okay then. So
Well, one thing I think the socials definitely teaches you is you can't be thin-skinned because people will always shit on you.
yeah.
I remember like I've had that on a number of points and issues. I remember back on old Twitter when I was interested in the campaign. His name is escaping me. Howard, the CEO of Starbucks. He was looking at a third party to not run, and I was interested. I was curious. I wanted something different. And man, Twitter went nuts on hate, for thinking that was a good idea. So you get that social media. I think it was one of my Lions connections that shit all over you. And look, Blue Sky is definitely like left leaning. I think is definitely a mild way to
Yeah.
put it. Aggressively left is another way to put it. And so I mean, you have to know what you're walking into. Just like if you walk into, Twitter today, you know what you're getting, right? You're getting a MAGA cheerleading squad. So you have to understand the environment you're in because that shapes the content you see, and that can, you've got to recognize that. But it was funny. I laughed when I saw it because I mean, you get that. You get that. I mean, people feel very free to say things the way and in ways they would not say it in real life and face-to-face conversations. And so if you're not complying with the tone of the conversation, people shit all over you. And I think that's fun. I think it's fun in the sense you can shit on my comment all day. I don't care.
Yeah, yeah, I think I replied back and it was just like, "Oh, okay, all right."
Yeah,
And I
righty
said,
then.
"Ha," I was like, "Look, dude, you're not gonna like, it's okay. Like, take you." It's so funny though. I go to his page. I'm like, "Who is this guy?" And he's talking about his fucking cat the whole time. Like he talks about his cat. I'm like, what is going on here? But he's filled with a rage and a fury
Right,
even.
right.
All right, Andy. Though I will say one thing on like you mentioned, like you get the MAGA cheering squad on Twitter now, and then maybe it's left leaning on Blue Sky. Is that a concern so that we're going to have like pro right, pro left socials? I don't see that a big deal,
Well,
but you just got to know what you're getting into.
yeah, I mean, I know we don't go too long here. I'll say this. I mean, I'd say old Twitter was left-leaning but inclusive of everybody, right? And it was a good conversation. I think t today you don't have that. So people are like, "Oh, that's terrible." But honestly, like most people don't get onto social media for the purpose of arguing, right? And getting their
Yeah,
blood
right.
pressure to elevate. So if you want to go somewhere where you can have an enjoyable experience and get what you need, like I think that's okay. Like I mean, like if you're gonna go on X just to argue and be shit on by people, or vice versa, if you're gonna go on Blue Sky and you feel like you're being, yelled at, it's okay. So it should be a place people can go and enjoy themselves, not get into an argument every single time they get on and say something. Your comment aside, obviously. So
Of
um,
course.
I mean, I think some people like Coke and some people foolishly like Pepsi. I mean, some people like McDonald's, some people like Burger King. Like it's okay to have options. I think it's okay to have more than two options, right? So I think it's if Thread serves a purpose and Blue Sky serves a purpose, and like we can't all individually keep up with all of those. You've got to make some decisions, but go where you find your community and what you're trying to achieve and what you enjoy. And I think that's fine because we don't all have to be in exactly the same place all the time. I don't enjoy Twitter. I don't enjoy it. I don't want to support it. Candidly, I mean, when Elon Musk bought it, I said, hey, this isn't something I want to support, right? And when we vote, when we spend time, when we buy something, like all those are votes, and we're making decisions and we're encouraging certain things and behaviors. And so do what's right for you, and whatever other people think of it, like it doesn't matter.
And there you go, listeners. That was a short segment by Andy. I thought we were only going
Sorry.
All right, Aaron. All right, we're well into our last segment here, Andy. Let's just talk a little bit. Wicked and Gladiator opened up
Yeah,
this weekend. Did pretty well at the box office. I think they both fell in below their tracking numbers, though. But still did Wicked did over 110 million, and Gladiator did I think a 55 million or whatnot. The thing I've heard about Gladiator is it's almost like a redo of the original Gladiator, even though it's a sequel somehow. So, but basically, they played all the same hits from the original Gladiator,
yeah,
which I thought was just an amazing movie in itself. This week, Andy, we got Moana coming out. In fact, it comes out on Wednesday. That's gonna blow up big time. I think people have been dying for this. The original, it was big, big
yeah,
for Disney. I think it's some people's all-time favorite. The songs are amazing. Uh, Lin-Manuel is doing the did the songs on that one, so they just played like crazy. So, um, Andy, another piece of news came out in the last week or two about the Marvel movies. You had the Avenger movies are coming up. There's been a lot of talk about how they start bleeding in now the new Fox properties, the Fantastic Four, X-Men, and all this stuff.
yeah.
Fantastic Four is coming out this year, or I'm sorry, 2025. And then they dropped that Fantastic Four is going to be in the Avengers movies. So that was a big piece of news that was exciting to see. I like Fantastic Four. Where are you at on them?
Yeah, I mean they're dorks, but that's what makes them fun. I mean they're
Yeah.
the oldest team, right? And if we're gonna have Doctor Doom or we're gonna have Secret Wars, like it's great to have the Fantastic Four finally included. And it seems like Marvel's like we said multiple times, the last year or two, like I think you're taking a step back and trying to recalibrate and
Yeah.
bring people better quality, and what they want. So they're talking about the Fantastic Four, they're talking about these next two Avengers movies. We want to see what the Avengers are going to look like in these next two movies, and the introduction of mutants, right? And that creates a whole
Yeah.
new opportunity, with Marvel and the X-Men. So it's an exciting time for the MCU. And you mentioned those movies that are coming out, and look, I mean, we were talking about The Rock recently. He was getting a lot of commentary for his movie. I saw a good review on Gladiator 2, which basically said it was just a lot more of Gladiator 1. But man, Pedro Pascal and Denzel Washington, like
I
just
know.
see those two guys together on the screen, even if it's a silly, over the top, flooding in the arena. Like I don't really have interest in the movie itself, to be honest. Even though the first one was great, even though I despise Russell Crowe, but I like just to see those two guys together. Like they're both such good and likable actors. So if not in the theater, I'll have to see that streaming, I think for sure.
I like how you weave those things in there. Like you said, the despicable Pepsi, I think, or what do you call Pepsi? Like say subtle jab at Pepsi, and then you say the despising of Russell Crowe. I like Russell Crowe. He's been in some pretty decent roles. I mean,
I mean, I don't know him personally, Dave, but he went through a phase where he was a real douchebag. I mean, hitting guys in the heads with telephones. He was so arrogant. And like, I love it when actors or musicians like get really big heads because it's like, look, like we enjoy your art, but you're just a fuck up like the rest of us. You know what I mean? Like Russell Crowe, you're just a goofy Australian. You're nothing special. You're neither great nor terrible. Like, don't hit people in the head with telephones. You know what I mean? The same thing when I've talked about this before. Like, I grew up loving the Black Crowes. They went through a phase where they were like out of control. Lead singer walks into a 7-Eleven and like berates a woman for not knowing who he is. And I was like, screw you guys. I gave him like a 10-year hiatus because I was so pissed with them for their arrogance. Now the new album's great. I'm supposed to go see them live next month. They're fantastic. But when people that are famous think that means that they're actually important, like that's not the case. You put your pants on one leg at a time like the rest of us. You're a shithead like the rest of us. So yeah, and
yeah.
Pepsi's not as good as Coke, David. Coke's the best. Coke is
Okay.
freedom. Coke is America. Coke is great. Pepsi's, I mean, come on. Sorry,
Okay.
Pepsi. No Pepsi sponsorship coming our way.
No Pepsi sponsorship coming our way. No Coke one either, probably, but that's
Hey,
okay.
I'll drink a Coke every episode if Coke wants to sponsor. I have my Coke Zero once a day. I love my Coca-Cola.
Do you, Andy? One last piece on the pop culture side. Star Wars has got the Skeleton Crew coming out here on Disney Plus. That comes out next. I think it's next week. This is with Jude Law. They're making references to him being a Jedi or something, but mostly a kid show, it seems like. I
Yeah.
mean, a bunch of kids stumble into a spacecraft and take it off somewhere, meet Jude Law, and something happens. Shenanigans happen. Are you interested in watching this? This it
So I
seems like
am. It's just
Goonies.
I just don't have time. That's my problem. Like there's so much Star Wars content. Like I can't watch all of it. I mean, I can't keep up. So it's like it's gone from, oh my gosh, there's something new coming out that's Star Wars, and you get really excited about it, to like there's more Star Wars stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's just like there's a constant flood of Star Wars stuff, and that's great. That's fine, and I think people love it and want to keep up. Like I just can't keep up with it all. So I probably won't. I haven't really been paying attention lately, even shows I wanted to
Okay.
watch, like with Marvel too, like Agatha. I don't have time to watch them all, even if I wanted to. So, you know, it's tough.
Agatha was good. I'll
Yeah,
give it that.
I
It was
agree.
a lot better than I thought.
Yeah.
It wasn't like amazing, but it was good. It was good. I'll probably give this Skeleton Crew a shot. I just if it's gonna be ultra kiddie, then I don't know. So again, some people are making references to like Goonies and stuff like that. Goonies was it yeah, it involved kids, but it wasn't. It was kind of a
It wasn't a kiddie movie per se.
yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, so this looks a little kiddie, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
But
See
Dave,
how
you
it
did
goes.
make a good comment on Bluesky, I think about a week ago, where you made the point that, look, Empire Strikes Back and Rogue One are excellent movies, and like that's the Star Wars I love, man. Those two are great movies. Like they're awesome, and that
I
was
could.
my comment.
Well, what made me say that is because like I was flipping channels, and there goes Rogue One, and I
Yeah,
just flip over to it, and it's like it's such peak movie
yeah,
making. Why doesn't Star Wars do more of that type of movie making? They do it with Andor, and that was an amazing show. The next show is going to come out, but make a movie like that. That was such a great movie, and yet we get these other like garbage movies. I mean, and so. they're capable of doing it. They don't want to give it to the people who can do it. I mean, I love Rogue One. If I didn't love Empire so much just for all the stuff it has as me as a kid, Rogue
Yeah.
One would be my top one. I mean, it's so good.
And it was so good, and it wasn't a three-part series. Like it was always
Yep.
going to be a standalone movie, and it filled such a critical void in the Star Wars storyline. Like how did this happen?
Yep.
And they told the story, they told it well, and it was well done in every respect. I think that one more than any of the other Star Wars movies that have come out, just really it was a very satisfying movie for Star
Oh
Wars
yeah.
fans, and it was a good movie for anybody to watch.
Yep.
It was very good.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, Andy, let's wrap up. We had a couple politics news that we could have talked about, but we probably not.
Yeah.
Andy, I'm not sure what Wednesday is going to look like yet. Still, I'm still unsure of the timeline. But so we may be here Wednesday. We may be here Wednesday later. We'll have to see how that works out.
Yeah, well, Dave, I mean, it's Thanksgiving week. I shared a post this weekend, and I'm really trying with all the politics stuff we don't want to talk about because I don't want to talk about Matt Gaetz or Doge or Marjorie Taylor Greene, this morning. I want to pause and really try and be thankful this week because it's Thanksgiving in America, and whether we pod or not this week, like America's great. It's still awesome, whether your politics won or lost in this last election. America, there's a lot to celebrate and be thankful for. So maybe like pop a Valium, have a beer, maybe not at the same time, whatever you need to do, like calm down, and just like celebrate that America is great, and just enjoy it and give thanks this week. And, Dave, we wish you a happy Thanksgiving if we don't pod before, but it's a really good time for pause and reflection, I think. So we'll see what we do.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, so Andy, we'll have something out.
Yeah,
We'll see
yeah,
where it goes. But if for some reason we don't pod on Wednesday, happy Thanksgiving to all our listeners. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Andy. I am thankful for this opportunity to pod with you as much as we do.
likewise.
So it's
Likewise.
fun.
Yeah, likewise, for sure. Dave from Vancouver, happy Thanksgiving to my Canadian non-celebrating friends. It's a pleasure to be up north again. It's a beautiful little city. It was beautiful flying in. So it's 6 in the morning here, or 3 in the morning here in Vancouver, Dave. So it's awesome.
Try to get a little bit. I know you're going to stay on East Coast time, so
For sure.
that'll be fun. So, all right, Andy, with that, I will catch up with you sometime soon.